Hi guys! I know some of you might just be starting with your project management career, but there are some things you should avoid as a project manager. I'm hoping my experience helps you get ahead with your career. I'll give you some tips, some advice on what you should avoid. Let's get started. First thing you should avoid is doing the work package. Project management, you have these work packages or work items that you have to allocate to people. So for example, one part of your project involves costing or involves surveying, doing some research, developing some Power BI reports. If your project says you're the one for the budget, all our budget went to you, so you should be able to do this. This shows that people who are hiring you do not know the difference between a project manager and somebody who does the tasks. If you're hired as a project manager, you should function as a project manager. If the project says that you are the budget, it means they clearly have poor planning skills, but of course some of those opportunities you might not want to give up on. Generally, why you want to avoid something like this is to make sure that the project that you have has the maturity to work with project managers. Second thing you should avoid is scope creep. Scope creep is when your work gets more and more and more and more. This happens because the stakeholders cannot decide when and when not to cut. If you're very strong and you can influence the project where you can maximize the value, I think you should try to influence. But when they say, oh, do only this, but oh no, do it globally. Just be clear on the requirement documents for your project, where it starts with when it ends. Documentation is very, very important for project managers. Having it in writing in black and white. Some people might say a lot of things, but if you don't have it documented, it didn't happen. So make sure you have everything documented. That's the second thing you should avoid, scope creep. The third thing you should watch out for, indecision. This could be a complex matter, especially if you are working with multiple organizations. It has to be either you or a stakeholder within the driving organization that should give you the guidance. If in case there are conflicting organizational goals, then it should be written. If there is indecision, there is no clear direction between organization B, organization C. And I'm not talking about people. Complexity with people is just one thing. But if you're considering a statement for an organization, that should be coming from one stakeholder. It's very simple. You always have to ask this question. Are you the one deciding for this? And if that person cannot say yes definitively, you're talking to the wrong people. They might have a stake, but they probably are not comfortable yet, or they need more information to make a decision, or somebody else has to make that decision for them. The fourth tip, do not handle anything that you cannot handle. Be the first to say, I cannot do this. This is not my skill set. There are different flavors of project managers. Some project managers do not know costing. If in case you do not have the confidence to do something, don't be afraid to ask. You might say, this is the value that will happen if we do this and we don't do this. And in this case, we might need to bring in somebody else to make this happen. So be careful about what you can and cannot do. That's knowing yourself, knowing your experience. If in case you want to take a risk, make sure that risk is called out and documented. The fifth is about too much paperwork. There is a fine line between documenting things because there are too many stuff going on. The more effort you put into something, there should be more value. So I'll give you an example. When I first got my global project, I felt like, oh yes, I can put something under my belt that says I'm a global project manager. Oh my God, do you know, they had me handle like multiple projects on multiple locations, and the problem was health. They said, oh, do this globally, but they didn't explicitly mention that you'd have to be awake 24 hours just for this call and that call to push through within this week or that week. Your priorities might matter. Your family might be more important. You might not want to do that because of the other things you've got going on. But whatever the case, be careful. Too much documentation. A way you could avoid it is finding out who your proper stakeholders are. So, this is your first time as a project manager. I hope this helped you. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel, like and subscribe to the. Thank you for watching.